So, a great quote that I heard once was, if you want to change the world, you need to start by changing yourself. Now, I don't know who said this originally, but good friend of mine said this to me one time. And it was sort of when he had a realization about himself that, he had certain goals and aspirations that he wanted to hit in life. But he felt like he couldn't hit those goals if he didn't change himself first. And part of his goals were to help other people change their lives. But again, if he wasn't where he was at, or excuse me, if he wasn't where he wanted to be at that point in life, he was obviously doing something wrong, right? So he wanted to change himself in order to sort of earn the ability to help others change themselves. And I want to start real quick by saying that if you think this quote, and I'll repeat it one more time, if you want to change the world, you need to start by changing yourself. If you think this is a corny quote, then you need to shift your mindset. Because I really do feel that there's tremendous meaning behind this quote. And I do think that one of the greatest feelings in my personal life is when I've made a genuine impact on other people's lives. Now, don't get me wrong, there's pleasures in life, sitting at the beach or riding a jet ski or, driving a fast car or buying something that you really wanted. Like, those are good pleasures. And I do enjoy those things, but, making a genuine impact on someone else's life, the the feeling that you get from doing that is like no other. And I think that taking a step back and evaluating yourself is something that needs to be done before you can, help others evaluate themselves and improve their lives, if that makes sense. I think it does. Um, and then I think the question is, maybe an important question to consider here is, why do you want to change the world? Is it for personal pleasure, or is it for the pleasure, that you give to others, or is it a mix, which is okay? I think that's probably the case for me. When it comes to like helping other people, I like the feeling that I get from doing it, but I also like to think that the feeling that other people get when they're being helped and their lives are being improved is a good and positive feeling. So why wouldn't I want to improve myself and others while making myself feel good and making other people feel good? Um, and I think you also have to kind of evaluate yourself in the sense that, like, I don't know, I think a lot of people put themselves down, right? Like, I feel like we all play ourselves down and we don't think we're capable of much, in the grand scheme of things, and like in the big picture, right? Like, we look at like how much money maybe a celebrity makes, or like how much money is maybe raised for a foundation through celebrities, or like building things in other countries for like the poor people. Like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of examples on the fly here, but I feel like we look at those massive, projects and the massive influence that people who have a lot of money can do, and then we compare ourselves to those massive projects and those massive changes and differences and the impact that those people have on like hundreds or even thousands of people, or maybe even millions of people. And we're like, what positives can we do as like your normal everyday person who's just working a 9 to 5? Like, I can't really make that big of an impact. And, you know, to a certain degree, I guess you're right. Maybe you can't impact that many people that fast, but you can impact, one person every day, right? So I think part of the video that I'm trying to make here is that realizing that maybe you can't do a bunch, but you can do something, is part of a mindset shift that I think a lot of folks need to take. And I think if we all just did something really small every day for someone else, the world would be a much better place. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be something as simple as giving someone a water bottle, or maybe you want to buy someone a meal, or maybe it's just complimenting them. It's free to give out compliments. It doesn't cost you anything at all. Um, and I think that, you know, understanding that, your small deed or something really small that you do good, while it may not impact the world, it may mean the world to one person. Something as simple as holding the door for someone, or helping a lady cross the street, or buying like groceries for someone. I don't know. Again, just kind of spitballing here. But I think the value that comes out of that may not impact hundreds or thousands of people, but the impact that that has on one person could be invaluable. And I think you need to sort of take a step back and think about, the impact that you could make on people on a daily basis if you just kind of go out of your way to do something nice for someone. I think that that is something that would really improve the world. And again, you know, if you want to change the world, you need to start by changing yourself. And I think a lot of that has to do with two things. It has to do with your thoughts on yourself and your perspective on yourself, but also your thoughts and your perspective on the impact that you can have on people. And again, that may not be on hundreds or thousands or millions of people, but you could have a huge impact on 1 to 2 people a day or more. It depends on how proactive you want to be about it. But I think, you know, really evaluating who you are, what you've done, and what you want to do in life is important. But again, these small acts of kindness throughout your days, just squeeze them in there. I really think that those go much further because the value behind them, while it's not shared by a bunch of recipients, that one recipient of that really nice thing that you did, it's going to mean the world to them. And once you start to do these things, I feel like it begins to compound. So if you do something nice for someone, and then they do nice for someone, something nice for someone, and then that next day all three of you do something nice for someone, it has a domino effect, and there's exponential growth. And not everyone's going to do it, not everyone's going to catch on, but I do think that, changing your perspective on the positive things that you could do in life and not trying to tackle too much, it'll have a greater effect on the world than you'd think. You just have to contribute and make it happen. So that was a little bit of a detour on this video, actually. But I don't know. I was kind of running with it, and I think there's some good points there. I will say, as more of like a general sort of mindset shift, as well as physical shift, if you do want to make a huge impact on, a few people or hundreds or thousands of people, I do think there is something to be said about changing yourself. Because again, if you're not able to make that impact now, you're probably doing something wrong. And you could probably make some changes that'll get you to the point where you can make that impact on people. And that starts with you. It starts with your habits. It starts with your priorities, your mindset, the way you speak to people, the things you prioritize throughout your day, how you start your day, how you end your day, everything from your eating habits to your spending habits, just all these decisions that you make, they do correlate with your overall just well-being and your mindset and your way of life. And I think if you can really shift all these things, so again, the way you eat, the way you speak to people, the things you prioritize, whether you scroll on your phone at the end of the night or you work on building a business, like all these decisions compounded over days, weeks, months, years, they do play a big role in sort of the success and the outcome of your life. So again, if you really do want to sort of change the lives of others and, possibly change the world, I do think it's worth evaluating yourself and probably, I should say, make some changes, just because chances are you can probably improve some things. And, who are you to change the world if you can't even change yourself, right? So I think there's tremendous value in that sentence. Who are you to change the world if you can't even change yourself? So I think maybe the lesson to be learned throughout, this video is to evaluate yourself, see where you can improve, make those adjustments, And throughout this process of making these adjustments, try to do some good and maybe make an impact on one person. Don't try and change the world yet. That's a pretty big task. Maybe we're not there just yet. But as practice, try and change someone's day. Do something positive for someone. Chances are it'll make them feel a lot better about themselves, and it'll make you feel a lot better about yourself. And then again, maybe they go and do something nice for someone else, and now you're spreading positivity. And if everyone does this, then the world could be a lot better place. Um, so I don't know, some food for thought there. I kind of took a detour on this video, not necessarily how I expected it to go or planned for it to go, but I don't know. I feel like it's good. I feel like we talked about a few good things here. So I appreciate you guys checking in with me today. If you're new here, I post content on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and then on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you watch my videos, I talk about all different kinds of stuff: personal finance, budgeting, life experiences, really just anything I feel like talking about. I'll talk about it on here and throw it over some gameplay. So I do appreciate you guys checking in with me as always. I can't thank you guys enough for the support, for the views, the likes, the comments, and all that good stuff. I really do enjoy doing this, and it's something I've wanted to do for a while. So I appreciate you so much for supporting me, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.